In 1865, Washington, D.C. stood at the edge of triumph and trauma. The war was over, but the future was unwritten. What did victory look like in a shattered capital? Through AI Reconstruction, we return to the streets where a nation tried to become. Whole again. By early 1865, Washington, D.C. was a city marked by exhaustion and contradiction.
Fresh bread, baked this morning. Get your loaf here.
Careful, the Legion is coming through.
Or simply waiting. Makeshift hospitals occupied churches, government buildings, and private homes. More than 50,000 wounded men had passed through the capital during the war, and the smell of antiseptic blood and overcrowding lingered in the air. The population of Washington had nearly doubled since 1860. Freed people arrived daily, seeking safety.
The Evening Star. Read all about the Grand Review. Latest news from Washington.
Pennsylvania Avenue, the ceremonial heart of the nation, carried two realities at once. Flags signaled approaching victory.
Finest silks from the southern tribes.
They marched towards the fortress again.
Move aside! Move aside!
Amputees moved on crutches, funeral processions passed silently, and hospitals struggled to cope with disease and trauma. Washington was both a symbol of triumph and a city visibly damaged by war. As the seat of federal power, it represented national survival.
This one's fading fast.
We did all we could. Move to the next cot.
You're doing just fine. Rest now. Try to keep warm.
Did not simply observe the Civil War, it absorbed it. Between 1861 and 1865, the city transformed. From a modest capital into the administrative and military center of a nation at war, federal authority expanded rapidly. New government departments filled rented buildings. Army headquarters multiplied, and the War Department operated around the clock. The city became one of the most heavily fortified places in the world, surrounded by a defensive ring of more than 60 forts, batteries, and earthworks designed to protect it from Confederate attack. This militarization reshaped daily life. Uniformed, soldiers outnumbered civilians in many neighborhoods. Supply wagons, cavalry units, and artillery moved constantly through the streets.
Clear the bay. We need immediate access.
I need a bed for Mr. Davis. Status critical.
Watch the stretcher. Coming through.
Housing shortages drove up rents, sanitation systems collapsed under pressure, and crime increased as the population surged past 180,000. Political tension was equally intense. Lawmakers debated war powers, civil, liberties, and emancipation while the conflict still raged. Spies, informants, and provost marshals operated openly. Martial law was a living...
Attention! By the right flank, march! Keep that line straight, gentlemen! Move along now!
The capital no longer resembled the city it had been. Before the war, it had become the war itself administratively, physically, and psychologically reshaped by conflict in ways that would prove permanent. As Union armies advanced and slavery collapsed across the South, Washington, D.C. became a destination for thousands of formerly enslaved people. Unlike many American cities, slavery in the capital had been abolished earlier. In April 1862, through the Compensated Emancipation Act, by 1865, Washington stood as a symbol of freedom, but also as a test of what freedom actually meant. Men...
Fresh produce, the best prices in the market today.
How much for this one?
We have everything you need right here.
The city's black population grew rapidly. Freed people settled in overcrowded neighborhoods and makeshift camps on the city's...
Move! Faster! We ride until sundown!
Children and adults, many, taught by formerly enslaved teachers or northern missionaries. Black churches became central institutions, offering not only spiritual support but education, employment connections, and political organization. Yet freedom came with severe limitations. Jobs were scarce, wages were low, housing was inadequate, and white resistance, both subtle and violent, was common. Discrimination shaped nearly every aspect of daily life. Washington embodied emancipation's promise.
This amendment goes too far. We cannot support it.
It is absolutely necessary for national security, Madam Speaker. We must vote now.
Wait, look at Section 3 right here. This spending is completely irresponsible, and we cannot support it.
The chamber will come to order.
We are acting in the best interest of the people.
Where are you headed? Show me your papers now.
I am just going to the market, sir.
I have my ID right here.
Like later presidents, Lincoln was visible walking from the White House to the War Department, visiting hospitals, and attending public events with minimal.
Just as our soldiers stand resolute on the field, so must we stand united in this chamber for the good of all citizens.
Closed in on Confederate strongholds. Victory was near, but peace was uncertain. Lincoln understood that the end of fighting would not automatically restore the nation. In his second inaugural address, delivered on March 4, 1865, he spoke not of triumph, but of accountability and reconciliation. He acknowledged slavery as the central cause of the war and warned that its consequences would not disappear with surrender. His call for malice toward none reflected a deliberate effort to shape Reconstruction as a process of reunion rather than punishment. Inside Washington, political divisions were sharpening.
The rapid growth here is redefining our community, blending clustered housing with vibrant green spaces and robust infrastructure.
Attempted to balance these forces, using his authority to support the 13th Amendment, while resisting calls for mass retribution against.
Here's your box, ma'am. Stay hydrated. Thank you kindly.
We also have blankets over here if you need one.
Now, as you can see on the board, we must carry the one before we subtract the fractions. Pay close attention to your denominators.
Pay close attention to this next section, as it builds on what we discussed yesterday about the core concepts.
And public buildings were illuminated in honor of the Union victory. That night, Abraham Lincoln attended a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater, less than a mile from the White House. Shortly after 10:15 p.m., actor and Confederate sympathizer John Wilkes Booth entered the presidential box and shot Lincoln at close range. The attack immediately threw the Capitol into chaos. Lincoln was carried across the street to the Peterson House, where doctors worked through the night. He never regained consciousness. At 7:22 a.m. on April 15th, Abraham Lincoln was pronounced dead. News spread rapidly through Washington and then across the nation. Church bells tolled, crowds gathered in silence, and government offices closed. The city shifted overnight from celebration to mourning. Military authorities sealed off large sections of Washington. Troops guarded bridges, government.
We are very grateful for the assistance you provided today.
It's our duty. Please sign here to confirm receipt of the housing voucher.
H. Seward, attacked the same night in his home, survived, deepening fears of a coordinated conspiracy. For Washington, Lincoln's assassination was not only a personal and national tragedy, it was a destabilizing shock at the very moment the country faced its most uncertain transition. In the days following Lincoln's death, Washington, D.C. became the command center of a nation entering an
Rest ease now, soldier. You've done your duty with honor. The nation is grateful.
Only hours after Lincoln's passing, he inherited not only the presidency, but the unresolved question of how the Union would rebuild itself. Reconstruction was no longer a theory debated during wartime. It was now federal policy, and Washington was where its shape would be decided. Johnson favored a rapid restoration of the southern states with minimal federal intervention. Congress, particularly
With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in. We are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This is completely unacceptable, Senator. We agreed on the language.
Circumstances have changed. We are holding the vote regardless.
We cannot stand by while these reckless policies jeopardize the future of our nation. The spending must stop.
That is simply.
If this leaks before the vote, we lose everything.
We need to control the narrative. The senator is asking questions.
I'll handle the senator. Keep the others calm.
and not with unity. But with confrontation at the center of power, as Reconstruction debates unfolded inside government buildings, Washington...
I have listened to your arguments, but my decision stands. We must proceed with emancipation.
Streets were unpaved and muddy, sanitation was poor, and infrastructure had buckled under years of military use and population growth. In the late 1860s, federal investment and local reforms began reshaping the capital into a permanent seat of national power rather than a temporary, administrative town. Public works projects expanded roads, improved drainage, and modernized public spaces. The city's boundaries grew, and new neighborhoods developed as freed people, civil servants, and veterans settled permanently. Institutions founded during the war, hospitals, schools, charitable organizations became lasting features of civic life. At the same time, racial segregation hardened, limiting where Black residents could live, work, and travel. Even as their labor helped build the city's future, Washington's Reconstruction reflected the nation's contradictions. Progress was real but uneven. Democratic ideals expanded alongside new forms of exclusion. By the late 1860s, the capital projected stability and authority outward. Yet beneath that image lay unresolved tensions about citizenship, equality, and federal power. Rebuilding the city did not resolve those questions, it embedded them into the physical and political landscape of the United States. By the end of 1865, Washington, D.C. stood as a city transformed by survival. The war that had defined its streets, institutions, and people was over, but its consequences were now permanent. The capital emerged not as a place of closure, but as a place of
Watch the step there.
Easy now, easy, easy. He's a heavy man.
Make way, gentlemen, make way.
before the war. Yet unity remained fragile, and the meaning of freedom was still contested. Washington had become the clearest reflection of the nation it governed. Its government buildings symbolized continuity, while its neighborhoods revealed inequality and ability, and of a president whose vision ended abruptly in violence. These realities shaped how power would be exercised in the years.
Keep moving, build those Tescos. Left, clear on the left. Halt, approach for inspection. Left.
The national story. In 1865, Washington was not simply rebuilt. It was redefined. A city forged by war now carried the responsibility of shaping peace, even as the nation struggled to decide what that peace should truly look like.